Hey everybody, Todd Cooperwriter here with Esoteric. We've gotten a lot of requests about pad cleaning. You've hung out with us here long enough on the Esoteric channel. You know we've talked about, as a detailer in particular, your two biggest expenses are pads and towels. Therefore, you want to take great care of them. There's a lot of unknowns about how to go about doing that, so I figured take a couple of minutes here, show you how we do it, or how we did it when we were a much smaller company and I was taking all the pads home at the end of every day. Many of you who are going to be watching that, you're either DIY or you are a one-man show, a detailer, so you're the one responsible for all of it. So let's go over to the sink. I'm going to go through some details, how to best take care of your pads. Okay, when you're cleaning pads, it all starts out here at the sink. Are there ways to do more of them at once? Absolutely. Here at the shop, we take a pallet, we lay everything out. We've got Velcro strips. We can hit it with a pressure washer. But for most of you out there, you're going to be doing a handful of pads at a time. You want to make sure that you don't allow too many of them to get built up. You got to try to stay on top of it. You also want to get them cleaned a little bit more frequently. Okay, we have these ready to go. There's one thing that you can do. If you know that you're going to be washing pads at the end of the day, as you're going through your pads, you can put them in a bucket of water, let them soak, let everything that's on here break down a bit and get to it at the end of the day. Otherwise, you just put them in a laundry basket and then they are ready to go for cleaning. All right, we've got our microfiber pads here. We've got a couple of different style of foam pads. We have got a brush, not too stiff that it's going to tear up the foam pad. And then you also have some kind of all-purpose cleaner just to try to help break things down. So what I'm going to do starting out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to soak this. And if you're really good about it, like in your microfiber pads in particular, you can blow these out with compressed air first to get most of the stuff off. And then you just want to get the cleaning agent down inside of it. So I'm going to get plenty of this on the surface. Same thing here on this one. Normally I like to let these set for a bit beforehand, but I don't think you wanted to sit here and watch the grass grow, so to speak. So once these are good to go, they've sat for a while, I'm literally going to take my brush and I'm going to go around and I'm going to work it, and you can see when everything is breaking down on the surface. The other thing you have to think of, it's not just on the surface. You've got a lot of stuff that gets built up down inside the pad, and we want to get all of that removed so that your pads work more effectively. And remember, the cleaner the pad, the better the condition, the better the job they're going to do on correcting and finishing down. If you try to use a pad way too long, you're not going to get that great of results. Okay, now on the microfiber pad, this one's going to take a little bit more effort. Once again, I'll just kind of do this quickly, make sure that you get the gist of what I'm trying to do here. I'm working all of this all of the cleaner in, and making sure that I don't have anything visible on the surface. All right, now that I've done that, I'm just going to turn on the water here, and you're going to continue to brush things out under the running water to try to get everything out of that pad, not just on the surface, but anything that's gotten underneath the surface. A good way to know, when you're rinsing this, you can look at the water, and once it starts rinsing completely clear, you know that's good to go. I'll go ahead and set this one aside, and I'm going to work this in a little bit more with a brush, and I'm going to set the brush down. On these foam pads, you can go in and you can knead the finish of it, and as you're doing that, you're going to be able to see the water that's coming out. Is it coming out milky? If that's the case, it's still drawing saturated polish or compound out of the pad. But once I know that it's completely clean, I'm going to just kind of wring it out, go on to my next one, and I'm going to keep repeating these processes to make sure it's all done. Now, this is obviously a tedious process. You know, and you go through a lot of pads a day, or let's say you've had these things build up for a while, you're going to spend quite a bit of time in front of the sink. But once again, your pads and towels are your biggest expense, and they're the only things that should be touching the surface or the painted surfaces, so you want to make sure they look as good as possible. Okay, so we'll turn the water off here. I'm going to wring these out first. I want to get the majority of the water out of them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take you to the next step to show you how to get the remainder of the water out before it goes into drying. So we're going to switch camera angles here. I'm going to show you the next step. All right, the next part here is pretty easy and straightforward. You're going to take your polisher. Doesn't matter whether it's a DA or a rotary. Rotary actually works a little bit better. It's about the only time we use a rotary anymore here in the shop is spin drying pads. And when we're going to put these on, it doesn't matter if everything's perfectly centered up or whatever. This is the only time we use the highest speed on this machine. People ask all the time, hey, if you polish it and compound at 4.5, why do they even put speed 6? They put speed 6 on there because it makes it much easier to spin dry pads. Now, I'm going to put this right down inside the bucket, so when it's spinning all the water out, it's going in the bucket. You probably don't want to try this in your sink because you're going to get stuff everywhere, and your significant other is going to kill you when you have stuff all over the kitchen. Not that I've done that before. Okay, simple. I just give it a pull. I've got it 4 or 5 seconds, let stuff spin out. Now I can take it off, set it down, set it in a bucket, whatever you want, grab the next pad. You can get through these pretty quickly. Now, what do you do with the pads at this point? You're not going to spin these out and then all of a sudden they're ready to use again. Even a slightly damp pad will cause problems in cutting and finishing. You don't want to do these on the fly. You want to have enough pads so that these things can dry completely overnight and be ready to go completely dry for the next day. Now, I'm going to go over to the table here, kind of show you how I would lay these things out for drying, and then we'll have some closing thoughts. All right, for this last part, we want to make sure that our pads get completely dry, and we want to make sure that it's done in an area that we're not going to get any kind of dirt, dust, or debris on it. So while sitting them outside sounds like a good idea, you want to be careful because you don't want dust and stuff getting all over them. All right, the best way to do this is put them on a wire rack. If you have a wire rack, it gets airflow here, it gets airflow here. It's going to dry a little bit more quickly and more consistently. But most people don't have wire racks. In that case, take one of your drying towels, lay them out, have everything through here, come back later in the day, check to see if the tops are dry. If the tops are dry, you can flip them over. You might have to grab a fresh towel and let the backs dry as well. Once again, you want these completely 100% dry before you go using them again. If you've got a lot of them out, you can kind of stack them up like this, staggered. That way a little bit of air gets underneath them. You just need to move them every now and then. Once again, proper care on these pads are going to make them last a lot longer. They're a big expense. You want to take great care of them by cleaning them properly, allowing them to dry, then storing them away in a safe place. They're going to last a lot longer and they're going to perform a lot better for you. All right, now you want to learn a little bit more about how to get the most out of your pads when you're polishing. We've got a couple of videos we're going to link you to here. Goes through some more technique related topics. As always, we appreciate you hanging out with us here on the Esoteric channel. We look forward to seeing you in our next video.